Wonders of the First is an enjoyable new card game that I've been having a lot of fun with. It has a ton of moving pieces, which is on one hand very interesting, but on the other hand can be very daunting to new players. But fear not, my friends, I am here to guide you.
This is the intro for the Hatcher show. He didn't want to do nothing, so he's standing there.
Hello, my friends! Welcome to my Wonders of the First Orbital guide. So, orbitals are the names of the 6 different factions that exist within Wonders of the First. So, to help you decide what's most suited to you, we're going to take a look not only at what these different groups are capable of from a gameplay perspective, but also what they represent from a flavor and lore perspective. Buckle up! We're going on a ride!
Wonders has a total of 6 different orbitals, each with their own unique flavor and gameplay style. So we're going to start out talking about Solfera, the realm of fire. Now this orbital appears as a magmatic sphere with volcano-like protrusions jutting upwards. Lava runs in rivers and streams. Heat bakes the air. This place has some really hardy denizens. You'll find blacksmiths, barbarian warriors, dwarves, goblins, dragons. There are a lot of variety in the type of people and creatures that you will find here. Now, a martial culture has evolved on this orbital. It's all about power, both in physical form and in material wealth as well, as that is a different form of being able to exert your influence over others. This place throbs with the energy of chaotic fire and rings with the ever-present pounding of anvils. Now, from a gameplay perspective, this is your beat your opponent down, get extra combat, bonus action, straight up destroy their permanents. This orbital cares about you hoarding up a bunch of the elemental stones and will give you bonuses based on how successful you've been with that. It is a straightforward orbital. The next one we're going to talk about is Heliosynth. Now this is a giant sandy sphere encircled by a massive ring of ancient technology, which is the remains of a long-lost civilization. So on the ground, it's essentially a land of endless, stretching deserts. A mad mix of technology and magic is what this world is all about. Incredible relics offer salvation or destruction in equal measure. Religion has flourished here, centered around the concept of self-improvement via magical and technological means. The casualty rates are high as the unworthy are swallowed up by the sands and their unrealized ambitions never become a reality. Only the truly worthy survive the intensity of Heliosynth. And in this world, you're going to find a ton of augmented beings. Not just humanoids, but even simple animals will also have this augmentation. You'll find incredible constructs, tech priests. Now, when it comes to the play style, this orbital cares specifically about using items. So it has a lot of ability to make items cheaper, give you benefits from items, but it also has a faith-based mechanic, which is a special resource that only exists for Heliosynth and can be built up and used for big effects or can be used for repeatable effects turn after turn. The orbital after that is Umbrathine. Now this is the darkest of the orbitals. Ensconced in perpetual twilight, it's a land of shadows and secrecy. The dark arts are revered here. Trust is as dead as many of the denizens who live here. Self-preservation is the #1 rule. This is the most horrific of all of the orbitals. This is where you're going to find monstrosities, eldritch horrors, liches that have lost their way, demonic spawn, absolutely the most nightmarish. Now, when it comes to the gameplay, Umbrathine is actually the only orbital that has a combat ability that will punish your opponents for their weakness in the form of Death Strike. So if you win a combat as Umbrathine, as an added bonus, you get to just destroy one of the opposing forces. And most of the time when you engage in combat in this game, everybody lives. So this is a surprisingly powerful ability when used properly. So essentially, you take risks with dark powers that might be your undoing. Your troops are expendable. This orbital lets you sacrifice people to make gains. Life doesn't matter to you much if you're living on Umbrathine. After that, we've got the polar opposite in the form of Petraea. These are the twin orbitals, a harmonious bounty of natural beauty. Petraea teems with abundant life. Elementals tend to the plants and the landscape here. Druids reach down into the heart of the world and draw upon the life stream. This is a world that is united in natural harmony. Growth is idealized. Communities here are strong and interconnected. You will find nature elementals, all kinds of different humanoids, tiger men, mushroom people, bear men, werewolves, ancient druids, all of the nature-aligned beasts. Now, when it comes down to gameplay, Petraea offers big fat beef boys that you can smack down your opponents with, but also has a really neat ability in the form of symbiosis where they can actually copy the abilities of other creatures, not just on your side. They can take your opponent's abilities or just basically glom on and give you an extra use of your current abilities. I actually really enjoy symbiosis. And Petraea feels like one of the simplest orbitals to get into. After that, we have the most complex of all of the orbitals, and that is Thalwind. Now, Thalwind is a bizarre sphere composed mostly of water, encompassed in a thick membrane of air, which is dotted with floating islands drifting lazily above the endless depths below. This is a world built on freedom and individualism. Many denizens of Thalwind are concerned with elemental mastery. Inquisitiveness is highly valued. The world is divided along elemental lines, essentially a rivalry between the skies and the seas. So there is a plethora of life here. In the skies, you will find birdmen, air pirates, sky ships. Below the water, you will find merfolk, jellyfish, sharks, and other curious creatures. In terms of gameplay, Thalwind is all about tricks and manipulation. It's the orbital that requires a little bit of a learning curve to figure out where you're going to go with some of these abilities. So don't let it discourage you. If you like trickiness, just understand you have a bigger hill to climb, but it's worth it. The tricks and manipulation that you can use here are pretty strong. Thalwind has an ability called portaling, which lets you actually move units around from one battlefield to another. And on top of that, also has a number of flying units which can inherently move themselves around. So Thalwind is about waiting for the right moment to do the right thing. Timing is everything. You'll find it more challenging to play, but once you start to get a hang on it, you will definitely find it very rewarding from that perspective. And the next orbital is the second most complicated as far as I'm concerned, and that is the boundless orbital. So this is the most impermanent of the orbitals. It appears differently, essentially, each time you lay eyes upon it. Reality forgets its own rules here. The environment can be changed just by thinking about it. If it can be conceived, you can find it here. As a result, knowledge is valued quite highly here. Residents of this place can survive for thousands of years, existing on multiple planes at the same time, leading obviously to some very ancient and wise beings. So this is where you're going to find angels and other essentially celestial beings, along with very ancient and powerful wizards. Now, Boundless's gameplay is functionally unique. This is an orbital that's very much focused on the last part of the game. So, in Wonders of the First, you play a series of 7 turns. The 7th turn is the end of the game, and that's where Boundless comes jamming in hard. They basically have a ton of different abilities that only activate on the last turn of the game. So what happens is you get huge boosts, and you can literally go from being in a massive losing position to straight up winning the game on the last turn. But it does require proper maneuvering and planning so that once you reach the 7th turn, you will actually be where you need to be to pull that victory out. And so, in my opinion, that makes Boundless the second most complicated of the orbitals. If you're looking for the most straightforward options, my suggestion is to start with something like Solfera or Patria. Those would probably be your best bet for the simplest onboarding.
And that wraps up the Orbital Guide. I hope that you found it useful. Obviously, this is just a starting point for you, and there will be a new set coming out later in the year. So some of the information that I've given you in terms of what the different orbitals represent and are capable of will most likely shift a bit over time. But this does give you a great launching off point. So thanks for coming by and hearing what I have to say. And I will see you all, my friends, in the next video.